We'll be joined by a new set of guests, but yes, Professor Andrew Latham joins us. He's a distinguished scholar of international security and strategic studies. We also have Deepanshu Mohan, Professor and Dean of OP Jindal Global University. Deepanshu, coming to you, India is the fastest growing major economy. There is, the fact here is, it's almost like a global investor magnet. And now we are facing a situation of this nature where a great degree of uncertainty is also, looming large. But at the same time, are you sensing that this tariff, which actually kicks in, will be also passing on cost to consumers, or will there be some kind of renegotiations of suppliers?
Okay, thank you for having me here. So I don't think any impact of what we are seeing right now may happen on prices within the Indian market at this point of time. There are certain suppliers, particularly in the textiles and apparel sector. And what you would expect is maybe within, of course, gems, diamond, jewelry. The main segment of India's exports to the US in goods, that is IT and pharma, has been uncovered and untouched by the tariffs. And I think that is where one would have to see how the Trump administration goes ahead with treating India in terms of its extension of what they would consider as secondary sanctions if they want to scope the tariffs out to IT and pharma. That would really affect us big time on the goods segment. I think the main challenge we face is clearly on services, because that's where we export a lot of our segment in the US. Where I think a lot of the conversation is less, I think, discussed is on the capital account side. We have a lot of investment that is pledged into the Indian markets from the US investors. And we must be aware that a lot of the domestic private investment in India across sectors hasn't grown the way the government would have anticipated. And I think we have been too reliant on foreign direct investment. A lot of that has not been adding up. And the US is a big investment market for us. And a lot of the portfolio investment also, as you see, is being driven away. So the volatility in the international market should drive us to do a lot more on the domestic spectrum, is something that I would probably say for a large domestic economy like ours. The size is not of just interest to the external actors, but it is also of a greater interest to our own domestic growth needs. And I think we have to really put a lot of effort in rationalizing the kind of factor market reforms that perhaps we should now target. Because the real issue here, Maria, is about relevance. You can realign with Asian markets, you can realign with Southeast Asian markets, but how relevant you are and how competitive you are is ultimately going to decide how your integration with trade happens. It's a very ruthless calculus, for us to work with. So I think our competitiveness to go up requires a reimagination of our industrial policy. It needs to be a greater focus on middle income consumers. I've seen a huge squeezing out of middle income classes, not just within India, but you're seeing that across now in many middle income markets. So Brazil is a middle income market. South Africa is a middle income market. China doesn't allow us the kind of access to markets that we look at. Russia, we have already a very maxed out defense and energy lead type. So if you're really looking for new markets, it would have to be parts of Africa, again, low middle income. You'll have to look at then parts of Southeast Asia. China is the dominant player there. So how do you stay relevant? You have to do something drastic in your domestic market.
Okay, so when we look at drastic measures, perhaps Siddharth will be able to explain that. But before I go